Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to episode number 82 of the Primetime Rundown right here on the Eastern Observer. Alongside my guys Ian Schraier and Rob DeLuca, I'm Joey Jarzynka. Cannot thank you all enough for making us a part of your Friday night. Ladies and gentlemen, our show is presented to you by Black Cats NYC. Be sure to download their newest hit album, Free Cake, which is out now, and play loud on the following platforms: Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, and Spotify. And of course, regardless of the month that we are in, please be sure to make sure that you check out their newest hit single called Run Rudolph Run, presented to you by Black Cats NYC. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a brisk Friday evening here in New York. DeLuca, how are things on your side of the river out in New Jersey?
You know, it's beautiful day today, you know, in the 60s, sunny, partly cloudy, you know, just a gorgeous day. You can't ask for anything better in the middle of February after what's been a very cold winter. So we're just getting closer and closer to spring, and that's what today felt like. It was a beautiful day, and we have a beautiful show coming for you, a lot of hockey to discuss. You know, it's not a whole lot going on right now since the Super Bowl had passed. You know, you guys had just discussed the Super Bowl recap on Instant Reaction. I believe that was segment number 6, and it was just well done. I wish I could have been there. But that's all we got for you. We've got a little hockey for you. Maybe we'll even touch on a little bit of basketball because St. John's did something a little impressive yesterday, or rather on Wednesday night, that we should talk about.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's very funny, Mr. Al Roker over there talking about the weather and being all nice, and yeah, pretty good stuff there. It's we've got a fun-filled show, but of course we have to make sure that our good friend Ian Schraier is good on the South Shore of Long Island. Is he good, or is he all right over there? How you doing, Ian?
Well, that's what's happening in Rob DeLuca's country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods, right? You know, I'm such a humbug when it comes to the snow. Funny how we mentioned Run Rudolph Run. Very excited that it looks like the spring weather is starting to peek its head out. It's going to be hopefully baseball season real soon, but football season's officially over. The owners certainly have their heads up their rear ends in Major League Baseball. So what is it time to talk about, ladies and gentlemen? We're finally in the stretch run in hockey season. Let's go. Ready for a great show.
There is no doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen. We have a fun-filled show. It's going to be great. We also have, in addition to St. John's basketball, we do have, of course, a full slate of NHL hockey. And then, of course, we will be discussing just a little bit about football, as Rob DeLuca did allude to just a few moments ago. Our full recap of the Super Bowl and Super Bowl 46 was on our newest hit segment series, which is called Instant Reaction. And of course, that features all three of us and of course, Mike Szabo and all of our guests. We got a chance to talk with Mike Szabo, with Ian and myself. The three of us got to sit down and discuss Super Bowl 46 at whole. And of course, if you guys want to see that and check out our reaction from it, be sure to check out theeasternobserver.com, as well as our YouTube channel called The Eastern Observer. Let's keep in mind also, ladies and gentlemen, too, that, of course, as Ian did bring up just a few moments ago, hockey season is upon us. We have not spoken about it a ton, but a lot has gone on in the hockey world, especially in the local part of New York. We've continued to see someone that is just continuing to light up the really just the Big Apple, and the New York Rangers just continue to, I hate to say this because I'm a diehard Islanders fan, but they continue to just press and just power through and really have that culture of winning. And that's what Gerard Gallant brings. And we got to see it when he took an expansion team to the Stanley Cup final back in 2017-18. Really amazing stuff there, or rather 2018-19, excuse me. Ian Schraier, I want to start with you here. The first half with the New York Rangers, this is a team that is either destined for a long run, or are they just a flash in the pan and could fizzle out in the second half?
You know, that's really a great question, Joey. And I wish I had the answer for it, because unlike our good friend Casey Bryan, whose words I will not speak on on our G-rated friendly show here.
PG.
I still maintain.
Well, keep in mind, Ian, I'm sorry to interrupt you. He's heading off to, I think, Cantaloupe
Camelot,
Columbia?
Camelot, British Columbia.
Oh,
Camelot.
okay. I thought it was
Okay, that's
Cantaloupe.
how it's pronounced. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I thought
I
it was
don't know. I made
Cantaloupe,
it
but
up.
okay.
I just kind of refer to it as Fruit Loops, British Columbia, Canada,
It's
because
better.
when I see it, that's how it's spelled. But
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, go
the
ahead.
way I approach the Rangers, Joey, is really a sense, and I say this to all my fellow friends who are Ranger fans as well. I'm still just under this impression of cautious optimism. I'm expecting at some point, because the team is just so young, and a lot of the credit, if not all the credit, for the reason that the Rangers are playing as well as they are, has to go to the guy in net, Igor Shesterkin, who right now is setting himself up as a favorite for the Vezina Award at the end of the year. It's really hard to believe. I mean, Gerard Gallant, just from his days in Vegas and coming over to the Rangers, he just knows how to build a culture, and that's what it seems like the Rangers are doing here. I mean, we expected there to be some turnover, especially after the offseason last year, where they had let go of David Quinn, they had let go of John Davidson and Jeff Gorton, and they were going to bring in a brand new regime, albeit it wasn't a huge change because they just brought Chris Drury up from the assistant GM role now to the general manager role. But I don't have an answer for you for that question, Joey. I mean, this team seems like a team that at this point, the Eastern Conference seems pretty set in regards to who is making the playoffs. So it's just a matter of seeding. So it seems like the Rangers are going to be back in the playoffs for the first time in a few years. But I think we'll learn more once we get to the playoffs about them. And I know that's hard to say, like for me to kind of like skip your answer and be like, are they a flash in the pan? Well, I guess they're not a flash in the pan if they're going to the playoffs, but I think we'll really see where things stand, because this is a team that has repeatedly struggled 5v5 the entire season. I mean, a lot of their success has been built upon their power play and the play of Igor Shesterkin. So when, these officials start to swallow their whistles come April and May, and this team needs to find a way to score 5v5, depending on what they do at the trade deadline, I might have more of an answer for you then.
Yeah, well, keep in mind also the trade deadline, March 21st, 2022. That's going to be a big deal. 12 p.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry, 3 p.m. Eastern time will be the trade deadline on March 21st. It's going to be a fun day. We'll give you some more on that later on with a new show that will be covering that the entire day here on the Eastern Observer. Rob DeLuca, your thoughts on the Rangers? Listen, we can't stand them, but we have to give credit where credit's due, and Gerard Gallant has been really, I think he's been the catalyst and the reason why that this team is where they are today.
Yeah, look, Ian nailed it on the head there. This is driven by the play of Igor Shesterkin and their power play, and Chris Kreider leading the league and the National Hockey League in goals. 33 goals on the year. Hasn't scored yet tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. Red Wings currently have a 1-0 lead after one. But, it seems inevitable that if the Rangers get a power play, you're getting a Chris Kreider goal. So it's coming, and I know Ian's going to love it. And
I'm trying to hold my laughter back so hard, and I can't do it.
I mean, I don't know what you can laugh at. He's leading the league in goals, and he's part of the reason the Rangers are so good right now.
No doubt.
But yeah, everything from the Rangers power play to Shesterkin to the coaching of Gallant is working right now, and they're at the top. They're right there at the top of the Metropolitan Division. They are playing some great hockey. There is no question they're going to the playoffs, and it's just a matter of how far will they go. That's where it comes to. Ian's right. The referees do tend to let them play a little bit, especially come playoff time. So it'll be interesting to see how they can grind it out to try to figure out their 5v5 struggles, which they have actually had this season. So that's something we're going to want to keep an eye on. And I think overall, though, this is still a very good hockey team. And Igor Shesterkin's going to have to continue his play, because without him, the Rangers will falter, especially in the playoffs. Shesterkin's got to bring it. It's that simple.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And you also have to look at, the players in front of him as well. And they're really, I don't want to call them overachieving, because they are a talented roster. It's just some of the players that you normally don't hear about, they are overachieving as well. But something else too, you bring up about, or Ian brings up about how, 5-on-5 play is not 100%. Every time, of course, Ian's guy, Chris Kreider, he gets on the power play, he just continuously scores over and over again. Hell, he's got like 4 power play goals in like 5 minutes. It's wild stuff. Things that you don't think you'd ever see. Of course, it happens when Ian doesn't want him to win, to do well, but he does. Now, Ian, I'm going to throw this to you. This brings us into kind of trade deadline talk, if you will, but it kind of also brings up, I guess, a good segue, like how DeLuca normally would. Montreal is looking to sell. They only have a grand total of 8 wins on the season. It's really bad for them up north of the border. And we have to keep in mind also new president of hockey operations, Jeff Gorton, somebody who the Rangers fans, they know about quite well, and also general manager and Kent Hughes as well. And going along with former New York Rangers legend and Marty St. Louis, he's now the head coach up there, interim head coach rather. There might be some talks, especially because there's a lot of history between the head coach and the president of hockey operations. There could be some business to be done with. Listen, this is not the first time that these 2 original 6 teams have conducted business. Ryan McDonough, he was originally drafted in Montreal, and he was traded down in that Scotty Gomez trade many years ago. We remember that vividly. I know I do. And I know Rob DeLuca does as well. But Ian, do you see potentially somebody that, could be helping this Rangers team 5-on-5 from Montreal or maybe someplace else?
I don't know if there's anybody you could say 5v5 for the Rangers coming out of Montreal. Obviously, Cole Caulfield's not going to be on the trading block, and the one player you would think that would help the Rangers 5v5 considering his ability, and he scored in his debut in Calgary the other night, was Tyler Toffoli, who I'm sure we'll get to momentarily. The players that have been most linked to the Rangers from Montreal have been Ben Sherratt and Arturi Lehkonen, because I think it seems just about almost a guarantee that Alexander Georgiev will be playing for another team after the trade deadline, that his value as a backup, going back to the days of Cam Talbot, now he's starting in Minnesota. It seems like Georgiev is in that next line of goaltenders of the Rangers to, end up get packaged for a pretty good deal to go the other way. It has already been made known to Ben Sherratt by general manager Ken Hughes of the Montreal Canadiens that he is going to be traded by the deadline. If not, they actually hope before the deadline. But I think based on the packages I'm seeing right now, I think Ranger fans would be very upset. I'm not so sure that Chris Drury will even pull the trigger for what they're asking right now for Ben Sherratt. I think the package includes a first-round pick this year, I believe a third the year after, and a couple of prospects for a third defensive pairing, when all the Ranger fans are clamoring for right now. Like, we know they need more veteran help on the blue line, but when the other night when you got to watch Zach Jones and Braden Schneider, 2 first-round draft picks of the Rangers that you're very high on, you don't want to be sacrificing, and this is no knock on Ben Sherratt, but you also don't want to be sacrificing that much draft capital and that much in terms of quality of prospects for a player of Sherratt's caliber.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But you know what, though? You have to look and you have to say to yourself, though, Montreal has a ton of leverage. They have a lot of picks as well. They also have the pieces to move as well. At one point, we do remember that they did make the 2021 Stanley Cup final. It was, obviously one giant asterisk when you had two Eastern Conference teams going head to head. But, again, you look at what you had brought up a few moments ago about Tyler Toffoli. We'll get to him in a moment. But DeLuca, do you see anybody there that the Rangers could potentially trade for? I mean, the big name to me that I would see, and it's a name that a lot of folks don't really want, but you look at some of the centermen that Montreal has, and I think again, just a guy like a Christian Dvorak is definitely not somebody that that you need. Or that you want on the team. He's not cost effective. He's got a long term as well, and he hasn't really been proving himself either. But somebody else that I think would be pretty good in the short term is someone like a Paul Byron as well, who can potentially play all sides of the as a forward. He can play the center. He can play both sides of the wing. And really, again, I just said it. A center is what the Rangers need.
Yeah, look, there's definitely some potential there. I don't know if Montreal's the perfect suitor for the Rangers necessarily, but there's definitely a player to look at there in Paul Byron. But I think overall, the Rangers will look somewhere else to do their buying. And yes, I do believe the Rangers will be buyers at this deadline. Or
I'd hope so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're in the middle of a playoff push. You got to find that one piece or something, because you You can't survive in the playoffs running Kevin Rooney and Greg McKegg out there. It won't be effective. So definitely somewhere in the middle six, they need another forward. So I think that we'll see some moves being made by the New York Rangers. Definitely, probably some prospects and high round draft picks for these players, like a Paul Byron. But maybe even if they're going to talk to Vancouver, maybe look at a guy like Brock Besser. Brock Besser being linked to New Jersey right now, if you ask Frank Severelli.
Problem is with Brock Besser is that he's only a winger, and the Rangers don't need a wing. They just need centermen.
That's true. That's true. You wonder, but the Rangers do have a lot of flexibility in moving guys around to play the center. So,
the player that would make a lot of sense to jump in on Rob here, wears number 28 in Philadelphia.
All right. That's a nice. Joey, I think Ian's taking my job here. I think Ian's taking my segue job here, and he's doing a damn good job of it. That's the problem here. But no, Ian, I honestly, Claude Giroux is a very interesting player. I don't see the Philadelphia Flyers doing business with New York for a player like Giroux. I don't think they would do that. It's very, very rare when you see rivals exchange players.
Sure.
So the chances are low, but I like the thinking there because he would be, perfect, but it would also knock someone from your top six down to the bottom six. And that's something I don't know if the Rangers want to afford to do right now, because they're already changing. Like, who are you going to knock down there? You're going to knock down Lafreniere? You're going to knock down...
it would be Gaudreau. It would be Gaudreau.
Barclay Goodrow. Yeah, I guess it would be Barclay Goodrow, but things are working right now. So it's tough to say, to bring in a high player like that, high paid player, no less. Granted, I'm not saying the Rangers don't have the room, but I think they could figure out a way to get Claude Giroux. But I still strongly believe Claude Giroux's top destination is the Colorado Avalanche. So I think that's what the Flyers will try to accommodate, because the Flyers are definitely sellers, much like Joey and myself's teams sellers. So
before we get lost on a tangent here, let's stick to the Rangers, because definitely something with the Philadelphia Flyers is definitely a talking point for us here. But sticking to the Rangers, though, you look at a team, you look at a team like the Rangers, who really, again, they don't have a lot of center depth whatsoever. Mika Zibanejad, Ryan Strome, again, and then in the bottom, in the third and fourth line. It gets kind of bleak when it comes to the center position. And that's why, again, a team like Montreal is one that everyone will be calling. There's no doubt about it. But the whole thing, though, is that a lot of their players prior to, or rather after their Stanley Cup run, their Miracle Cup run, they have a lot of term. Mark Bergevin locked a lot of these guys up. So the problem now stands that, you're going to start to see a high asking price for these players, and most likely a retained salary. So now it's going to be, we don't know what Montreal is going to do. We don't know how much they're going to command for some of these players. And we also have to realize too, is that who does Jeff Gorton want? Do we even know? Clearly, Tyler Toffoli was not in his plans. He was their best coveted player that they had to potentially sell. They sold him for a ton to Calgary. We'll get to that as well. They also have Josh Anderson, who in my opinion was completely overpaid. Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, those guys. We don't know where these guys are going to go. That's why I brought up, obviously, about somebody like a Paul Byron, or unfortunately Jake Evans is young. He would cost a lot, but again, you have to have guys that you want to build around, and clearly they're going to be tearing things down, and this is going to be a full rebuild project. We'll see what the Rangers have. They do have, in terms of draft capital, they do have all their first round picks all the way till 2024. They've got a second round pick from St. Louis. They do not have a third round pick this year, and they also have a fourth round draft pick from Winnipeg in the Jacob Trouba deal from, I believe, a long time ago. Let me just make sure of that. Make sure that is the, or excuse me, that's actually the Brendan Lemieux deal. That was the Brendan Lemieux deal. Yeah. The Brendan Lemieux, Kevin Hayes deal when Kevin Hayes was traded to Winnipeg back on February 25th, 2019. Sorry about that. So a lot going on there with the Rangers, and we'll see, if their first half, 68 points as of Wednesday night is a flash in the pan, or if they can really take it and run. Guys, let's keep on moving forward here. Let's go a little bit east to Long Island, and the New York Islanders right now, they are in complete free fall. They're not doing well. There's first half struggles. It's beyond first half struggles. They look like an old team. Regardless of them being one of the oldest teams in the league, they really are looking like it. There's a good chance and most likely that Cal Clutterbuck will be moved. Ian was bringing up to me, and actually us rather, in our group message about how that identity line most likely will be torn apart. But keep in mind, the identity line was torn apart once when Matt Martin decided to book book Long Island and go to Toronto because Garth Snow did not want to re-sign him for what he thought he was worth. Lou Lamoriello eventually traded back for him after the things did not go well up in Toronto. And keep in mind, though, who was the general manager to sign Matt Martin up in Toronto? It was Lou Lamoriello. So, now I wouldn't be surprised if Cal Clutterbuck is their biggest asset. It's really going to be tough to see what's going on with this Islanders team because they're not really built or they're not ready, we don't think anyway, to start selling off pieces, especially high-priced pieces in Matthew Barzal and Anders Lee, who have these balloon salaries and really term as well. DeLuca, we'll start off with you here. What do you see with this Islanders team? Where do they go?
It's tough.
Yeah,
they're
pretty much.
Because they're going down.
That's pretty much every answer that we've gotten from every single Islanders fan as well. In addition to every single Islanders fan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Every single hockey fan is all in because no one can figure it out. Literally, no one.
Yeah, they're going down. This isn't looking like a team that was in back-to-back conference finals. That's for sure. These teams taken down by the Tampa Bay eventual back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 games and 7 games respectively. They fought Tampa the hardest out of anybody in the NHL playoffs those 2 years. Nobody fought the Tampa Bay Lightning harder than the Islanders did. But this is looking like a team. This is looking like a Lou Lamoriello thing all over again, where he's running. He ran low on options and he went old again. He went experienced again. And it's hurting them mainly on the defensive core. You're running guys out there with a combined age of like 375 years old right now between the 6 guys, which is not that great, but it's unbelievable. Zdeno Chara is 44 years old. Andy Green's approaching 39 years old. It's a very old experience. I'm not saying these guys don't have game anymore, but they're playing too many minutes a night for their age to be effective. They have to be sheltered, and it seems like Barry Trotz and company are kind of staggering them. It was tough with Pelech and Pulak out for a while there. They're obviously their 2 best defensemen, maybe the best defensive pair in the National Hockey League, not being there makes things very tough. But yeah, things right now for the Islanders are not looking good. They're not scoring enough. They're just
that was always a problem with them. They could never score.
That's really strange for how talented this team is. Kyle Palmieri's invisible outside of their last game the other night, I believe on Tuesday.
Yeah,
I believe on Tuesday, and they took on the Boston Bruins last night, but obviously,
exactly. Yeah. So now, go ahead.
So Kyle Palmieri was playing a healthy scratch lot. Zach Parisi's showing his age. Zach
Parise is he's one of the only Islanders that's actually showing up. That's the problem. He's one of the only Islanders.
Zach Parise's always on the move too. Zach Parise's always boasted about being a second half player, but he was dead quiet up until the second half started. Then he started to come along, scoring goals in back-to-back games, big goals nonetheless. But yeah, Parise finally getting back into his way, but that first half, he really did show his age, his wear and tear from all of his back injuries and everything else. It seemed like Zach Parise wasn't looking like the same player. And
now the big thing here that I want to bring up to the both of you, and Ian, I want to move to you here with this is you look at a Zach Parise, you look at a Cal Clutterbuck, guys with expiring deals, and Andy Green. Do these guys get moved? We can probably take the latter off the table here, but the Cal Clutterbuck and the Zach Parises of the world, can those two get moved, and what would they go for?
I don't know about Zach Parise at this point. Obviously, you would be getting a lot of playoff experience, but a lot of tread on the tires. You could say the same for Clutterbuck, but I mean, when you look at Cal Clutterbuck's resume and what he built on that Islanders fourth line the last 2 years, that would not be the worst idea in the world for a team to sign if they need depth. And I don't have a particular team in mind to say this is where Cal Clutterbuck should go. I mean, maybe, you want to talk about a team that could make a deep run and could use some depth players. What about him going back to Minnesota? That's a possibility.
Minnesota's having themselves a great season, Ian. That's a great point. I would definitely like to see Lou Lamoriello give Minnesota a call about Cal Clutterbuck, because he
would be interesting, right?
He seems like the perfect depth player.
Former Islanders legend leading the way, Billy Guerin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no less. Hey, that's a New Jersey,
very true.
That's a New Jersey Devils legend to you. But nevertheless, I agree with Ian. I think Minnesota's a great destination for Clutterbuck. Parise might get moved. I mean, look, Ian's right. There's a lot of
let Ian finish.
There's a lot of tread in the tires. Hey, he's fine. He knows I love him, and he interrupted me. He interrupted me too. So you know what? It goes both ways.
It's all out of love, DeLuca. All out of love.
Always. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Tread on the tires, but you do get a lot of playoff experience. So you do wonder, maybe you probably could get him on the cheap with his age showing. So,
and keep in mind too, he's on a league minimum.
Yeah, exactly. So he doesn't cost anything. He literally doesn't cost anything. It's going to cost you a couple of late round draft picks to get him. So
this is also something too Ian brings up about Minnesota too. This is really their last time, Minnesota anyway, that they can really do anything if you think about it, right? And the reason why is because the dead cap for the aforementioned Parise and Ryan Suter kick in next year.
Yeah,
that's when it goes from $2.371 million this year times 2 to 6.371.
It's rough.
794 times 2. That is a $12.743 million dead cap hit. And in the National Hockey League, that is a ton. That's a ton. That is a ton.
Joey, I think
this is the time that Minnesota should be going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should all kind of have a little discussion about that, because that's very important to know that they are essentially tripling that dead cap hit, and it's not ideal for them. They have to try to go all in right now, because there's going to be a lot of very, very important players that Minnesota is not going to be able to afford to sign, because they have to up that dead cap hit, and obviously the cap isn't going up by. I believe the cap's staying flat this year, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this is the final year of a flat cap, and then it'll go up next season. But obviously, that doesn't do anything for Minnesota, because they're going to have to deal with that then. So it's just a matter of...
It's a matter of what they can do. It's a matter of what they can do. Let's go back to Ian here. Ian, please, go ahead. Finish your thought before about Clutterbuck and potentially Parise.
No, I mean, like I said, I just think that there's too much. I mean, I don't want to say this is such a thing as too much experience, but I just think there's just too much on his legs. I mean, would a team potentially take a chance on Parise? I mean, I think at that point you're trading potentially late picks for a guy you're hoping still can give you a little something in the second half of the year, or you're stashing him, up in the press box as a healthy scratch. I just don't think you're doing yourself many favors. I just find it so hard to believe, Joey, that we're having this conversation 2 years later, a year later, 2 years later, that the New York Islanders can't figure things out. I think it's a mind blow. I mean, it's not going to get much easier for the Islanders, strictly because they just lost Josh Bailey's now hurt. So that's not going to help. And now you're stashing guys like Kiefer Bellows on your second line. And you know what bugs me about the Islanders, and has bugged me for weeks, has been the relationship between Barry Trotz and Oliver Wahlstrom. I mean, Wahlstrom has been really, if you want to look at a guy who's at least had the opportunity to create for the Islanders, it's been him. Oh, yeah. And we for the last 2 years, we've discussed the problems with the Islanders top line, and the fact that Barzal's line doesn't produce enough shots. And that this has been a line that's been completely built upon the second line of Beauvillier and Brock and Bailey. But I wish I could, to echo Rob's sentiments. I wish I could put 2 words together and describe what I'm watching with the Islanders, because I'm literally waiting and I'm like counting the number of games that they're making up. Because at one point, I think, when you would look at
there's still like 5 games. There's still,
but at one point it was like 10 or 12. That they were behind the pace because of the lockdown in Canada and the long road trip and the COVID pause and everything in between, and the fact that now they're losing to teams like Seattle and Buffalo. This isn't the same team, and it's just a struggle to figure out why.
Yeah, I gotta agree with them. Go ahead, Joey, please.
Yeah, no, and you know what? And to me, you continuously hear little murmurs about, well, maybe they're missing Jordan Eberle too. I don't know how much Jordan Eberle makes a difference on this team. Listen, we do know that there was a lot of chemistry between him and Matthew Barzal.
I agree.
The problem was that he was a streaky player, and they needed somebody.
And he's doing that in Seattle again, Joey. If I may be
Exactly.
frank, he's doing the same things. Like it's streaks with him. It's streaks. Like I almost
that was really in his career too in Edmonton.
Right. It's I like, again, I forgot Jordan Eberle was playing in Seattle, and then like a couple weeks ago he scored 5 goals in like 3 games. So it's like I can't keep up with them. It's just I think he might have made small difference. I think maybe Jordan Eberle could have gotten the Islanders back maybe 3 wins if he was here. Maybe 3. But I don't see a monumental difference here.
Well, I don't know. All I can tell you is that this would be my idea. Not only idea, but I believe that it most likely would happen. Would be Cal Clutterbuck gets traded for a 2nd or 3rd round pick with a retained salary. He makes $3.5 million right now.
You think you can't dump that whole thing?
I don't think it's not. I don't think so. I mean, you might be able to, but $3.5 million with
I guess it depends where you're shipping them, honestly.
Exactly. But
you don't think you could get more? You really see the ceiling at a 2?
Well, then if you want to go for a first, sure, take the whole thing.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That wouldn't make any sense, though. It wouldn't make any sense because
if you get a first, if you're able to score a first, then you retain. But if you're able to score first, then that's how you retain. That's how you.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying though, it's not going to make any sense.
I mean,
because listen, there's no term anymore. Not only there's no term, but you can hold back, sure, but I don't think he can garner a 1st round pick, especially when we've seen the spurts of what he's been able to. He is, and I'll be 100% here with all of you guys here and our viewers, is that Cal Clutterbuck is one of the 3 4th line guys on the identity line for the Islanders that can consistently play with any other player, right? Yeah. You look at Matt Martin, you look at Casey Cizikas. As good as Cizikas is, right?
You can only play with those guys. I get what you're saying.
That's it. And that's the problem. That's also why, too, that teams might look and say, well, Cal Clutterbuck has shown that he can play with a Matthew Barzal. He can play with these guys. Yes. Can he compete with other 1st or 2nd line talent? I don't know. And that's why I don't expect a 1st round pick. Anything high, I say a 2nd or a 3rd is max, and maybe if you can retain salary, great, that would be awesome, but then I would say drive up the pick.
Score a prospect, maybe even a low level prospect.
Joey, I got to ask you, as the Islanders fan in the room, I mean, what is your formula to getting the Islanders back to where they were a year or 2 years ago right now?
Oh, I think a lot of it has to do with finding, again, is finding offense. But again, you also have to look at the defensive side as well. And I think that the Islanders they just look tired. That's the big thing. They look tired, and it's on a nightly. They do not look energized. They look like they are completely hungover from the last victory at the Nassau Coliseum. Anthony Beauvillier's takeaway, on the right dot. It was great. It really was. But you know what? Those days are over. You're in a brand new building. And you have to also get adjusted to that too. And Barry Trotz made something very clear when the building opened, when UBS Arena opened, said is that, amidst all of everything going on here, there's not a rhythm. And also, this is a brand new building. We do not have home ice advantage yet. Now that's the problem. And for those that have never been,
That's odd. I
well,
gotta say, that's an
well,
odd
you have to realize something is that I've been to that. I was at that building on opening night, and it can get loud. It has the potential to get loud. The difference is that nothing will ever be the Nassau Coliseum. Nothing.
I feel that.
I agree 100%.
Nothing. And it doesn't.
Speaking as the Devils fan here, it's like when they moved to Newark. It hasn't been the same. This is not East Rutherford. This is not the Continental Airlines Arena that Devils fans know and love, because no one likes going to Newark. Just like, would you rather get to the Coliseum, or would you rather have to go all the way out to Belmont? Like, it's
the whole thing though with this part is that yes, people have to get acclimated to this, right? But also you have to realize too is that there was an old school hockey feel at the Nassau Coliseum. Okay?
No doubt.
Ian and myself, we were at game number 4, okay, of the Stanley Cup semifinals last year, okay? We were there when Ryan Pollock made that massive save. That save went all around the entire hockey world, went all around sports, rather. It was one of the best saves that we have seen, and Ian and I got to see it literally 3 feet in front of us. It was the coolest thing.
I remember you guys sending me that video. Unbelievable. Really.
Right. But the reason why we bring this up is because that atmosphere can never be replicated at UBS Arena. And it doesn't matter on how nice UBS is. I was there twice, once for a St. John's basketball game in an official standpoint, and also at UBS for the Islanders as a fan. It is never the same. It will not be the same. They have to just get acclimated to it, and it's going to take a lot of time. There's no doubt.
I will say, Joe, as the Devils fan, it did take the Devils a couple years there to get acclimated. And then by the time they were acclimated, went to the cup final, fell short, and the building, and then it downhill. So just watch out for that peak. It's not that fun.
But also something that I do believe that needs to happen as well is that to Ian's point before about what I think is that there needs to be a shakeup. There's no doubt about it. A big player has to go in order to shake things up. And at this point, it now has to be a Josh Bailey. It has to be an Anthony Beauvillier. Those guys have to be moved.
I could see Beauvillier, Josh Bailey getting traded, fire somebody.
Well, considering
somebody gets fired.
Let me follow this up with this question. Considering a year ago, Joey, we were talking about how the Islanders needed to finally add that one missing scoring piece on Barzal's line that still hasn't been done. The answer now, in your opinion, is to break it up and let someone big go?
Yeah, I would. And I'll tell you why. Because, see, if you don't right now, what you're seeing now, Ian, is nothing is working. Literally nothing is working. Every single player looks old right now. And what you're seeing right now at 32 years of age, Josh Bailey still has about he has $5 million times 3 years, including this year. So at 32 years old, he's not looking ideal. But then again, his center's not looking great, Brock Nelson. He's really and I'll say this nicely. He's the best looking Islander this entire season, Brock Nelson. He is.
No doubt.
He has done phenomenal. He has done wonders under Barry Trotz. He really has, okay? But the problem is that you need to trade somebody because you now have somebody that, if I'm not mistaken, Barry Trotz brought it up earlier. Kiefer Bellows might have a spot. He might have a spot, and that means that somebody on this Islanders team might not be coming back in terms of the lineup, and that includes Josh Bailey. Now, you're going to be seeing friendly young competition looking to take over these guys' jobs, and that might make Lou Lamoriello's job come the summertime a little bit easier on who he might have to ship out in order to get some fresh youth in. And listen, for all of us hockey fans out there, we all know, you might have to have some youth infused. You cannot have a full-on old team. We've gotten to see it with the Washington Capitals over and over and over again, and they lose year in and year out. When they won the Stanley Cup, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was some youth in there. Some. But remember, the year before they won that, they were a disaster. I think they won. They lost in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it was not ideal whatsoever for the Capitals, and they found a way, but they had to have youth infused into their pedigree and into their DNA in order to kind of get them that extra push. And I think that that's what the Islanders need. This year is a wash. There's no doubt about it. But I would not be surprised if Cal Clutterbuck re-signs with the Islanders next year at a very small, at a price like Casey Cizikas, if he truly believes in what could be for this Islanders team.
Yeah, Joey,
I do believe.
okay, yeah.
I think that, I do believe it can happen. And somebody else who you can get, I think, a first-round pick for is Scott Mayfield, who not a lot of folks are talking about. He's got 2 years left. He's a right-handed defenseman, which is very difficult to find.
You need those.
That makes $1.45 million times
That's
two. You
cheap,
can get a
very
first-round pick for him.
Yep, because that's a lot of that's control. It's cheap control. I like that thought process, Joey.
And on top of it, too, my last point, Noah Dobson. Noah Dobson is beginning to come into his own. He will be due a bridge contract after this year. He is on an entry-level deal. $894,167 is what he's making this year. He's going to be owed money, and expect, I believe, Scott Mayfield to get a lot of attention come March 21st.
Could
for
be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep on moving forward here, ladies and gentlemen. Enough about the Islanders talk, because it honestly hurts. And
Don't make me talk about the Devils.
yeah, well, we're not actually going to talk about the Devils,
God.
because we're actually going to move west, and we're going to go over to Calgary. And we got a chance to talk about Tyler Toffoli early on in our show here, about how Calgary traded for him. And what we got a chance to see, fellas, earlier in the week was really unbelievable, with what Calgary had given up for him. They gave up Tyler Pitlick, Emil Heineman, who is a big deal in terms of the AHL, a 2022 first-round draft pick, which is a conditional, and it's top 10 protected. So if that is the case, if Calgary does not obviously finish in the bottom 10, or in the top 10, they give, I believe it's next year's pick instead.
Yeah, but that'll, yeah.
Right. And then also a 2023 next year, 5th round pick. So Montreal is able to clear off some cap and also some term. And also Tyler Toffoli reunites with a couple of guys that have been a big part of his Stanley Cup winning playoff career. Daryl Sutter, of course, and Milan Lucic, guys.
Yeah, look, I had a feeling Tyler Toffoli was going to be on his way out well before the deadline. It just, he wants one more. He wants one more before, and he feels, I don't know if he feels he can get that.
He's still young.
He's all right. Yeah, he's
29.
29, yeah, almost 30. But yeah, I mean, look, you can't be happy when you're only winning 8 games. Even if you were just in the Stanley Cup final, but you're only winning 8 games. So obviously Montreal was going to clear house. Tyler Toffoli, one of the best players on Montreal, you knew he was getting moved. So I think,
and keep in mind too, I'm sorry to interrupt you, DeLuca, but keep in mind too, this is also insurance, God forbid, if Johnny Gaudreau walks.
Johnny Gaudreau could walk. Yeah, I mean, look, there's he'll be a name that's thrown around on deadline day. I don't think Calgary will move him.
No,
but there's going to be calls. There will be calls placed. But I think that this was the right time for Calgary to make the splash. Do I think they overpaid? Yes. I think this set the market very, very high. So teams that are selling, like the New York Islanders, like the New Jersey Devils, are going to be very pleased because they have a lot of players to sell. They can fetch higher prices than normal because trades like this set the market, and the market got set very, very high. And that'll make it very painful for a team like Ian's New York Rangers, who are going to be trying to buy, and it could cost them more than they want to be ponying up, which could really deter them from even making a move. They might even have to stand pat on deadline day, depending on how the market goes.
No. If the New York Rangers stand pat, they are not getting past the second round. Book it.
But I mean, look. First of all, they need to improve their 5-on-5 numbers if they want to get past the first round. But nevertheless, overall, I like the trade for both sides, but it was an overpay. So I do give the win of this trade to the Montreal Canadiens because they scored big. They got a first round pick, which look, Tyler Toffoli having a great season. Even on this horrid Montreal team, he's having a great season. he was not having a first round pick great season. So kudos to Montreal for getting the big score. And I think Tyler Toffoli will do very well in Montreal, Calgary, depending on where they stuff him in the lineup.
And also keep in mind too, Tyler Pitlick is also on an expiring contract too.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if Montreal has to. I would think Montreal's going to attempt to lock that up. You don't trade for a guy when you have 8 wins and not keep him. So
no,
I would expect work
yes,
to be
done. No.
I mean,
yes,
you can, but I mean, you
yes,
got
you
8
can.
wins. Why are you trading for someone and then you're just going to lose them?
That doesn't matter because that was just the throw-in piece. You're getting the first round draft pick and you're getting Emil Heineman. That's what you're
true.
getting.
So
That's
yeah,
what
I mean,
you're
look,
getting.
it'll be
And
interesting to
Pitlick
see.
Okay, here you go.
I won't be surprised if Montreal signs him. I'll say that much. I think that they're going to try.
No, Montreal. No. He that is a stopgap for him, and he will be on the next plane out. Excuse me. Yeah, he will be on the next plane out to wherever the heck it might be. Ian Schraier, your thoughts on this deal?
You know, I like this deal a lot for Calgary, really. I thought that the trade for Montreal was very, very good in terms of the first round draft pick, but I'm going to kind of give the win here to Calgary because it was only a few years ago that Calgary was labeled as a Stanley Cup favorite and bowed out in the first round, if I remember, in 5 games. Yep. This has to be the time for Calgary. I mean, you want to talk about a Wild West this year with teams like the Avalanche and the Wild. I mean, you got to throw Calgary into that discussion. I mean, this is a team, I believe, 5 of their last 6 games have scored at minimum 4 goals. I mean, they went out this offseason, an offseason ago, and brought in Jacob Markstrom, and they've got the right coach on the bench, obviously, who's won a couple of Stanley Cups. So this is the right play for Calgary. You've got a guy who's won a cup, and you're just adding more scoring ability, just a fierce scoring ability to that team. I mean, obviously that no one's touching the top line, but for a team who could maybe use another scorer on the second line. I mean, Blake Coleman hasn't necessarily been pulling his weight on the wing, so maybe you move to Foley to play with a guy like a Mangiapane, right? So I mean, think about what kind of top 6 you're establishing yourself right now. If you're the Calgary Flames right now, you're atop the Pacific Division. You want to stay there with a team like Vegas right on your tails with a guy like Jack Eichel coming into the fold now. There's a lot of discussion there. So I think this is a great move for Calgary, much needed.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And the best part too is that, you know, when you look at what Calgary has been through all of these years, they have not had a solid goaltender since I most likely would think Mika Kiprasov. He is the last he's the last one. They tried it with Cam Talbot. Who else did they try it with? They tried it with Mike Smith. They tried it.
It just didn't work.
It has not worked out up there. And so far, and we don't want to say that things with Jacob Markstrom are working yet because he needs he needs guys in front of him. But also the big thing right now that they are missing is someone by the name of Mark Giordano. And we got a chance to obviously see that. I think if they had Mark Giordano, first off, I don't think this would have ever happened, this Tyler Toffoli deal for starters. But also keep in mind too, they can still go out and potentially get a Giordano. Why? Yeah. Because Giordano has expressed interest in potentially going back to Calgary or potentially Toronto. Those are the only 2 places that he would accept a trade to, Calgary and Toronto. So listen,
it's possible.
It's very possible, but Calgary right now is in line to potentially make one more move, and they could go for another first-round pick, or they even have 2 second-round picks too. That's something that might entice Ron Francis out in Seattle. It's very possible, and I think that. And not only that, too, why wouldn't you potentially even – I mean, listen, if I were Brad Treveling, the general manager for Calgary, I'd call back. Why not? Because you know what? What's the worst that happens? Ronnie Francis closes, hangs up the phone? Okay. But I don't see that happening. I truly believe that Seattle is trying to build for the future, and they are going to be they're another team that's going to be very active at the trade deadline too. They're going to be looking for those expiring contracts, other teams, and I think Mark Giordano is definitely on the list for Brad Treveling to call. And I think that would be something where I would safely put, and this is just me, not looking at Ian or DeLuca down below. This would put Calgary in a good spot for a Stanley Cup final run.
Yeah, look, this is the time. This is the time because the unknown status with Johnny Gaudreau is probably killing everyone in Calgary right now.
And keep in mind, DeLuca, Andrew Mangiapane is a restricted free agent, right?
Yeah, and that's
He's
I think they're looking at him as the future right now.
Yeah, well, you also have to look at Matthew Tkachuk.
Special.
Listen,
Yep.
Matthew Tkachuk, though, he's right now making
Yeah.
$7 million restricted free agent after this season.
You don't move on from Tkachuk, brother. You just don't.
No,
And
you don't.
So yeah, it makes
There's-
you wonder: can Johnny Gaudreau even be afforded? Because he's still playing well. He's Johnny Hockey.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he might have to walk. Does he have interest in going
No.
home? Does he have interest in going home to South Jersey, aka the Philadelphia Flyers?
Or does he go up the turnpike and go to the New Jersey Devils?
He most certainly does not. Not that I don't want him. It just won't happen.
Oh, listen.
Anyway,
Hold on a second. Didn't Dougie Hamilton take a
he
big
sure
pay
did.
raise?
That's a miracle that no one will ever be able to explain to me on how it actually happened. And now his jaw's broken, so he hasn't played in 2 months. So yeah, it's just phenomenal. It really is just unbelievable what it's like to be a New Jersey Devils fan. You people have no idea. Joey's starting to grind my gears now. It's not good. This is not good, Joey. You set me off here.
Well, let me tell you this much though, but you said it perfectly though with Calgary. They set the market. The market, and now other teams are not going to be happy in terms of buyers.
Buyers are going to be very sad.
Oh yeah, the sellers, they are very, very happy.
Love it. Yeah, you gotta look out. And new that's what I love about being in New Jersey. I mean, look, I actually hate that about being in New Jersey Devils. Sellers yet again.
Yeah,
but this time they could actually get some real capital because of how high the market is.
Yeah.
You got to just look at those guys, because also, Joey, someone who is a free rental and won't cost much, because obviously as the season goes on, salary cap hits go down because the season progresses. So it's
correct.
PK Subban could be an option for Calgary if you think about it on a rental. So you wonder what
I don't
what
expect
the New Jersey
that.
Devils. No. I wouldn't expect it, but you
No.
just
No, and the reason why I don't expect that is because of some of the rumblings that we've heard about him potentially being a locker room issue as well.
That's been thrown around for like five years since he's been in Montreal. I don't think I buy it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, there's a lot of the selling teams are going to be happy because they're going to get higher prices than they expected.
Yeah,
and it could really just, these are small things that in the long run could see a lot of tables turning. So it makes for a very exciting next month.
Fellas, is there a team in the National Hockey League that could potentially sneak in from below the wild card? Any, Eastern predictions that you look at in terms of the wild card? Let's look at the Eastern Conference first. And teams that are underneath the wild card: Detroit, Columbus, the Islanders, Buffalo Sabres, Philadelphia Flyers, New Jersey Devils, Ottawa Senators, Montreal Canadiens. Ian Schraier first. What are your thoughts? Do you see a team listed there that could potentially sneak in as a wild card?
Well, I would say if there was a time where the Detroit Red Wings could salivate a little bit and say to themselves, well, Patrice Bergeron is out, Brad Marchand is suspended for 6 games. This could be the stretch here where maybe we can make a run still at that second wildcard spot. I would say the Detroit Red Wings. Columbus is way too streaky. Obviously, normally it would be a no-brainer and you just come out and say the New York Islanders. But for me, it would be Detroit. You got to like what they're doing on the with Mo Seider, the Calder Trophy candidate. There's a lot of youth, a lot of youthful exuberance there in Detroit with what Stevie Y is building over there. If there was one team, it would be them. You got to love the way Thomas Greiss is playing in goal for them. Not a lot of superstars, outside Dylan Larkin, but I think there's a
Mark Stahl's a superstar. What's the matter with you?
Hey-o.
Maybe about 10 years ago, maybe in 2012 when he was actually doing anything. But I think
Nick Leddy. Hey, listen, Islanders legend. I'm sorry.
Well, you want to talk
Blackhawks
about a New York
Nick Leddy.
Rangers legend, that could be shopped. Vladimir Nemesnikov is a name that's getting that's circling a little bit. Well, that's why it's so hard for me to
come back
believe.
to the Rangers.
That guy gets moved around.
But that's
that guy
so
gets
hard.
moved around like a shopping cart.
I think it's hard for me to sit here and talk potentially about the Red Wings as sellers when they're 8 points back with 30 plus games still left to go. But As I said before, I mean, Detroit would be the team that I would pick out of that lot. But it seems like in the East, it's a lot more jostling for position than it is a team maybe sneaking in from behind.
Yeah, DeLuca, what do you think with the
Yeah,
teams?
the Eastern Conference race is over. It's all about seeding battle at this point. Yeah. It's too. Once the Boston Bruins started winning games, we knew the Detroit Red Wings would not keep up that hot performance they started with, and here we are. The Bruins still have games in hand on the Red Wings, and they're 8 points up. So it just doesn't seem feasible for anyone else to come back right now. So I would say that this is over. And it'll just be a matter of seeding, and it's going to be exciting seeding battle because it could as matchups change, you never know what's going to happen in that opening round. So it could make for exciting things depending on where everybody ends up seated on the East side. That is.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, and I think the biggest team to answer the question though would be Detroit, if anything. Well, I don't expect them. I don't expect them to go anywhere. But this is a team though in Detroit that I expect a lot of movement come free agency next year, and this is not going to be a team that will just be signing 1-year flyers. I think that this Detroit Red Wings team is ready to sign 2 to 3 year deals now, that they finally have some traction. And I think that a Nick Leddy and Mark Stahl too, those two New York legends, they right now, and in addition to somebody else too, a guy like who am I thinking in the room, like an older guy, like a Danny DeKeyser, who's been there for a really long time. Right now they can lead the next generation in a Mo Sider, in a Philip Zadina, whoever it may be, or even a Lucas Raymond as well, who's come into his own as well. You now have that foundation built. You've got a whole bunch of players, at least 4 guys, in addition to the DeKeyser part, in addition to Dylan Larkin. You might now be able to attract players to Detroit. Now, I'm not saying guys on long-term deals, but now you've got, if you look at the injured reserve, Jacob Vrana, somebody that the Washington Capitals traded away for, they got Anthony Mantha in return, is pretty much a 1-for-1. And right now, both teams are, I guess they want to call it, they lost both, or both teams lost because no one's really played. Mantha was good for about 3 games. Then he got injured again. Vrana got injured again. But then you also have a couple of guys like a Mitchell Stevens, who you can easily re-sign at a bridge deal a couple of years. And then again, the dead cap goes down. They have Franz Nielsen and Justin Abdelkader on the dead cap right now. This team, in my opinion, is not ready yet. But if they are the only team that, or I think the team that can potentially hop over into the second wild card, it's them. But watch out for them come 2022-23. This is a team that definitely will be in the hunt for the wild card. Not anything higher, just the wild card.
Yeah, Joey, I was just going to say that.
Give them 2 years. They'll be back to where they were back in 2008, 9, 10, even, wherever that was.
Joey just stole the words right out of my mouth. He couldn't be more correct about the Detroit Red Wings. Steve Yzerman has done everything correctly.
But DeLuca, but you know what? I want to give Stevie Y all the credit. I do. But you have to give Ken Holland some credit.
He gets some too. Gets some too. There's no question. He did build some of this. But yeah, though I would say Ken Holland kind of built the ground. Stevie Y slammed on the accelerator, slammed on it. And it's incredible where they're going to be in 2-3 years. They are going to be back to that dominant dynasty that they were when it was Detroit, Colorado, New Jersey.
You're going to be seeing, and ready for this. I'm going to tell you this. For those that are out there, we don't know, Tampa and Detroit, I don't want to say they're going to switch spots. Detroit will be coming for Tampa's number. Watch it.
Coming. Look, they are. No,
they're hungry. They're hungry, and Stevie Y will beat his former team in 2 to 3 years. It's going to happen because you're going to have Stamkos, Kucherov. They're going to be 2 to 3 years older. Keep in mind.
I like it, Joey. Book it.
Now on the Western Conference side, you look at some of the wild card teams that are just below the wild card 2 line. Anaheim, Dallas, Winnipeg, Vancouver, San Jose, Chicago, Seattle, Arizona. Anaheim with 55 points. They are the closest. They're tied with LA. with 55 as well, who right now have 2 games in hand on the Ducks with 55 points. Dallas has 54, Winnipeg is 50, Vancouver 50, San Jose 48, Chicago 43, Seattle 36, and the lowly Arizona Coyotes, who are going to be playing in my high school's auditorium, 28. Well, while you guys are still laughing, I will say this here. I think the best team that can potentially come out of this, just right now from today, are the Dallas Stars, and the reason why is because they're 7-3 in their last 10. They look decent, and again, that might take a man like a Klingberg and Esa Lindell off the market. When they were supposed to be at one point a seller. There was some talk, of course, the Rangers might be looking at Joe Pavelski. I don't know if the Rangers are going to be able to afford Captain Joe. It's definitely not going to happen, and pray to God that doesn't happen.
Please, God.
But yeah,
I love Joe Pavelski still.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that definitely won't happen. I'm sorry, not Esa Lindell, just John Klingberg, because Esa signed that deal last year. But it would be, it would be Klingberg. You've got Radulov. You've got Pavelski. You've got Michael Raffl. And then you also have, this is a team also that with Dallas, this is it for them. This is it for them. Regardless of them still having Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, you're going to need some depth help come next year. I would not be surprised if one of those guys, like a Pavelski, gets traded away, but if they continue their hot play at 7-3 in their last 10, they're not parting with anybody. Do you guys agree, or do you guys see another team that could potentially, eclipse the wild card 2 mark, Ian Schraier?
I'm on board with you here, Joey. I'm all on the Dallas Stars. I mean, I was hoping Joe Pavelski was going to be a name on the trade market, but I mean, he is the guy who is, at his age, is single-handedly putting the Stars on his back. I mean, it was just about all him that beat the Colorado Avalanche the other night, the NHL leading Colorado Avalanche. I think the Anaheim Ducks finally came back to earth a little bit. Their hot start when they had reeled off those 10 wins in a row. I think there's a lot to look forward to in SoCal, in that part of SoCal with Trevor Zegras, and I think guys like Kevin Shattenkirk finally came back to earth. But there's a lot of talent there, a lot to look forward to.
Max Steele,
yep.
Troy Terry,
in terms of what they're building. But for me, it's Dallas. I couldn't believe the slow start that team got out to. I know they're aging a bit. I know you can't be depending on guys like Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin as much anymore. But look, what Joe Pavelski's doing in Dallas is he's single-handedly carrying them now a point out of a playoff spot. And credit to DB's Kings too. I mean, this is a team that could easily maybe come up and swipe the first wildcard spot from the Preds, but I don't see that happening. So yeah, Dallas.
With John Hines' teams, it's very possible. We've got DeLuca to attest.
But Dallas is definitely my favorite from below the line right now for sure, Joey.
Yeah, DeLuca, who do you see that could potentially do some damage?
Yeah. From the bottom of the line, it is Dallas. I mean, look, they weren't supposed to start out that slow, but they are a little older, as Ian said. But look, it really is Joe Pavelski. It is the Joe Pavelski show, and it's so beautiful to see that he's doing this at his age. He's trying. He wants that cup, and I applaud the hard play he puts in night after night to try to get his team back in this race. And look,
he was 2 games away in the bubble.
Yeah,
2 games away.
Let's not be crazy here. The Pacific Division, and yeah, let's also not count out the Edmonton Oilers, who have finally seemed to find their way and are now comfortably in a divisional spot in the playoffs. Like people didn't think they were going to find their way. They've won a few in a row now, so it's really
sayonara, Dave Tippett.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's truly incredible what we're seeing in the Pacific Division, because there was only supposed to be 3 teams from the Pacific Division, and that's because it's because 3 division teams get in by default, and that's just the way the NHL's formatted. That's all we thought we were going to see. The Los Angeles Kings have put something together that have made the Pacific Division interesting this year. And I believe DB told us about this during our offseason preview.
He did.
He did say, watch out. He did end up predicting that only 3 teams would go, his LA Kings being one of them, and I did not disagree with him for that. But
no, I'll be honest with you, I disagreed with him. I did. I thought that they were going to be. I thought they were going to be maybe second wild card holding on to it, but I did not think that they'd be in the top 3. I did believe though that there is potential. I think that they would get there now?
Because they're growing. Now I didn't expect it, but yeah, they were growing. They were growing fast. I didn't expect Calgary to be this good. This was supposed to be Vegas's division to blow out, completely ruin the other.
Calgary has 2 games in hand.
Yeah,
keep that in mind. Calgary's got 2 games in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal.
Calgary playing out of their mind, 8 straight wins, unbelievable. Propelled them right to first place in a division that was supposed to be all Vegas. Yeah. So I think that the Pacific Division got a little more fun than anyone anticipated. Good for DB's LA Kings. I'm liking how the Anaheim Ducks are fighting to stay alive, but it seems like the wear and tear is hitting the Ducks a little harder than they expected, and that's going to plateau them. And I think watch out for the Dallas Stars because they're not done yet.
Well, I think something that you have to look at also with the Anaheim Ducks too. Again, you have to also look at the guys like that Ian brought up, like a Zegras, like a Jamie Drysdale. These cornerstone players that are going to be, they are the next Getzlaff, the next Cam Fowler. Those 2 guys, right? They're on their way out, and now you've got the Zegras Drysdale show that is on its way. With all the turmoil that's gone on down in Disneyland over there, Bob Murray had an alcohol problem. We remember that, okay? That was still this season. We have to remember that was this season where we actually tried getting on a couple of writers, and they were not allowed to talk to us. That was a big thing too. And I think DeLuca remember this. Ian was on assignment for a while. We remember DeLuca. We actually had a couple of folks on, for that. And, it was tough to see what's gone on here, but they've really been able to, Helene Elliott from the LA Times, excuse me. I couldn't remember who it was. Helene Elliott from the LA Times, she was on with us, and, she was telling us about how this team, has the potential or whatnot. And, again, Adam Henrique, the Jacob Silverberg, we remember him from Ottawa. This team is ready to move forward. I don't want to say ready to rebuild or move forward, but they're kind of retooling, what Anaheim's doing. And I guess that would bring me to my next question in terms of the biggest surprise from the first half, fellas. Again, for me, I would like to go off on not really a tangent here, but looking at the biggest surprise to me for a team this year. And I think I'll probably be in the minority here. I'm not going to go with the Rangers because that's just the easy answer. I'm going to go with a different team, and I'm going to go with the Nashville Predators. Why? Because the Preds were supposed to be garbage. The Preds were supposed to be beyond garbage. John Hines comes in. David Poile hires him. And Rob DeLuca is the first to point out that, oh my God, sound the alarm. This team is going to be dog poopy. Now, that's no good, right? It was bad. It was a bad year last year, right? They were sellers. They sold off Ryan Ellis, their number 1 left-handed defenseman. That's a big deal. Also, they could not get it done last year. And then you also look at what Nashville was able to do this year, and so far they're doing they're doing pretty good. 28, 17, and 4. They're on a little rut right now. They've lost 4 out of their last. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. They've lost 3 straight. But also, you have to keep in mind too that Ryan Johansson was on the block. Everyone was on the block last year. And then you also had a guy like Philip Forsberg, who is a UFA at the end of this year. And then you also look at another player like a Matthias Ekholm, who got that extension that was well-deserved, but they simply could not afford all of them. Pekka Rinne retired. UC Saros became the new starter down there. He is the next, he's looking to become the next Pekka Rinne, but really, a lot of, he's got a long ways to go to become Pekka Rinne, and he's got, shoes to fill, big shoes to fill, no doubt about it. Guys, is there any other team that's surprising to you in the first half?
Absolutely. And I'm going to go different. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by the New York Rangers. I knew they were going to do this.
Get out of here. But go on.
No, I knew they'd be.
You might just be the world's biggest liar. And actually, I might have to bring this up because, when that happened, I truly do not believe that.
I said the Rangers were going to be better than everyone was anticipating. Ian said
Adam Gase doesn't believe you either.
Excuse me. When we had Colin on from Newsday, and he had said, "Oh, me and Gross, we were talking, and we see the Rangers maybe not being in the top 3 in the Metro, but at least a wild card team." I'm like, "You're out of your minds! Out of your minds!"
No, they were some. I knew they'd be a playoff team. This wasn't that hard to figure out.
To go back.
I thought they were still a year away.
They were not. No. Because look, Igor,
DeLuca doesn't want me to go back to the archives.
All right, we're getting off track here. The team that's surprising me most is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were not supposed to be this good. This is unbelievable, the tear that they are on. This team is old. This was supposed to be the first. This was supposed to be like the first year of the Penguin power window is finally closing, and here they are shooting up in the standings. 4 straight wins, 6-1-3 in the last 10. They're 70 points. It is absolutely crazy how much they've shot up. Because, did I think they could be a wild card team? Yes. Did I think they'd be in first place? No, not really. And they're only 4 points back of the league's best record. So this is some unbelievable hockey from an aged group that is clearly at the deadline going to try to buy some things and get one more cup before the era truly does end.
Well, you've got $17 million that's coming off the books between Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin. Just those two alone. That is also, keep in mind, out of all of the playoff teams, the Pittsburgh Penguins have the most cap coming off the books. Well, if Evgeny Malkin takes a hometown discount, which I would not expect to happen, listen, at age 35, could he command an Alexander Ovechkin-like extension?
Maybe. Look, Joey, it's very possible because Evgeny Malkin has done more than enough service to this franchise, to this city. He's done everything. He doesn't owe anybody anything. They got 3 cups. They got 3. He got 3. So it's not like he needs to go ring chasing either. He can go chase the bag if he wants to. He's done everything he's needed to do.
Yeah.
To be, I mean, look, do I believe he's also a loyal player? Yes. I think there's definitely a small possibility that he re-ups in Pittsburgh on a smaller deal just for loyalty's sake. He doesn't seem like someone who would move around, but it's possible because look, the work's done. The work is done. You got 3 cups and you clearly have a shot at a 4th right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's handled because yes, like I said, those 2 big names are coming off the book, Malkin and Letang. And it seems like if it doesn't happen this year, that's it. But not that it was an unsuccessful era, obviously furthest thing from it. Very successful, but we'll see the beginning of the end now.
Yeah.
We thought we'd see it this year, we didn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they also re-signed Jeff Carter to a 2-year, or rather extended him 2 years, 3.125 starting next year, all the way until 2020.
That guy's got to be like 50 now, right?
He's actually 37. He's actually 37.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. He's been in the league forever.
Yeah.
Good for him, though.
There you go. Let's keep moving forward, fellas. A couple of nights ago, we got a chance to see Buffalo Sabres legend, Jack Eichel. Yeah. He made his season and team debut with the Vegas Golden Knights. So at one point, you got a chance to see Mark Stone with the back injury. He was out for a long time. But then all of a sudden, we got to hear about Jack Eichel potentially making his return. And then poof, all of a sudden, Mark Stone is on the long-term injured reserve. Where have we heard this story from, ladies and gentlemen? Ian Schraier, where have we heard this story from? It sounds a lot like a team out in Florida.
Yeah, you were about to say South Florida. You meant the Gulf Coast of Florida.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant to say the Southern United States. How's that?
This just reeks of the Tampa Bay Lightning, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Somehow Mark Stone's just going to come back for the playoffs when the salary cap just doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean this is a huge lift to a team that is obviously trailing Calgary, but a team that can flip a switch at just about any moment with all the talent that they possess offensively. With guys like Pacioretty and Marchessault and William Karlsson and the list goes on. And now you add Jack Eichel to that. I think that this is it's so funny how things just tend to fall the ways of the favorites, in the West and the East sometimes. And just another example of it here of Vegas going fishing for another ring. And will it happen this year? I mean, I think that they're going to have they're going to be battle tested a little bit again against a team like Colorado when we get to that point. But Vegas is setting themselves up pretty nicely.
Well, not only that too, Rob DeLuca, you also look at some of the other players that are on the injured reserve. In addition to Mark Stone, get this, Alec Martinez. He's also due to be back in the playoffs as well, in addition to an unknown Zach Whitecloud as well. And that could potentially give the Vegas Golden Knights one of the best the best defensive core in the NHL. And come playoff time, I mean, I don't really know how this team can get any better. They're not buying in at the trade deadline. They
don't need to.
The
only thing they need to do is get they can't. Yeah. The only thing they can try to do is get a goaltender for the injured Robin Lehner right now, because I don't think they want to ride Laurent Brossoit right now, because look, he's not legend. It's not like he's a bad goaltender, but he's not the answer to try to stay up where you are. So, and what's crazy, Marc-Andre Fleury's been linked to Vegas. Vegas
has been talk.
Vegas is interested in taking him back.
But Kelly, no. Kelly McCrimmon debunked that right away. The moment he said that, he said, as much as Vegas fans want to see that, it's not happening.
No,
obviously they can't, because
Fleury feels stabbed in the back.
Well, not only that, but also Chicago cannot retain. They're not going to retain nearly. I think it's like, because he's making, I think, $7 million. They're not going to retain $6 million. It's not going to happen. So what they're going to have to do,
retain up to 50.
Exactly. So what they're going to do is they're going to have no choice but to get a Thomas Greiss. Or maybe, for instance, let's see how much is Alexander Georgiev making?
Not much.
See. He's not making that much. Oh, he's making a grand total of 2.425. Now, they might be able to work with that. Now, let's look back at what Vegas, and by the way, this is all from our friends at Cap Friendly, by the way, so we cannot thank them for all of their work. This is something else too. They've got $10 million in their long-term injured reserve. So could it happen? I don't expect that to, but I do expect a lower salaried goaltender with potentially one more forward that they could potentially get if that does come about. Could we see it? Ian Schraier, could it happen?
I don't put anything past them. I think Jack Eichel was their big spending item. They've got a lot of money now tied to guys like Eichel, and somehow Mark Stone's on LTIR. It's still it's still mind blowing to me. And Alex Pietrangelo. If they're going, I mean, I would think if they're going with a forward, they're going with someone in the bottom six, because I think they're pretty well solidified in the top six. So you'd want to get somebody that's a little cost effective. So I don't know, Joey, who's on your mind there. But I think from a perspective of goaltending, yeah, I think Georgiev would make a lot of sense. Greiss would make a lot of sense. I think those are the two names right off the bat that just kind of jump off the page to you in terms of available goaltenders. Yeah. But I'd be curious to see in terms of like saying, maybe they'll go with a forward. I'll be curious to see. I mean, I would think it'd have to be bottom six.
Yeah.
And if so, someone that's not going to adversely affect their cap, because they've got a lot of money tied up in a lot of different players.
Yeah. Well, we can almost guarantee Riley Smith is not coming back. We can guarantee the TSEN mark is not coming back. And then also, of course, I guess Rangers legend Brett Howden isn't really getting it done. Rob DeLuca, your thought on this on this Jack Eichel return? I mean, hey, listen, he played decent. He did have 4 penalty minutes yesterday on a high stick and a trip. So, what do you see from him?
Yeah, it's going to take some time for him to get back to his game. I mean, Vegas didn't play that well last night. So
No, they did not.
Shut out. I mean, look, it's Colorado Avalanche. It's a tough matchup. It's a great matchup. But yeah, 2-0 final in favor of the Avalanche. And it was tough first game back. I mean, look, he made the debut at home. It was a great ovation and everything, but overall, it'll take time. It's going to take time for him to reacclimate himself. It's been a long time. So I think with time, time being the key here, everything will work itself out.
Yeah.
For Vegas, because the moves they're making, it's all Tampa. It's all Tampa like, and Lord, hoping they're not the next Stanley Cup champion, because I hate when teams do this. It's so circumventing the cap. It's supposed to be illegal.
Well, see, that's the thing though, is that what we're seeing here right now is that all Vegas needs to do is just get into the playoffs, and I think that's what they're hoping. As long as they get,
and they're going to do that.
That's
they're
it.
In the Pacific Division.
Exactly. So then once that happens, there will be a massive logjam. That I can tell you. There will be a massive logjam in the bottom six. You might have guys that are normally in the top six playing third or fourth line minutes. It might just be really crazy stuff, fellas, to see what's been going on out in Las Vegas. Now let's actually conclude our NHL, or that is actually the conclusion of our NHL talk. And guys, let's go take a peek into the Big East world, of course, in basketball, and of course Ian's favorite team, St. John's Red Storm. They got it done yesterday against the Xavier Musketeers, number 25th ranked team in the Associated Press poll. Listen, it was a good wire to wire win yesterday, Rob DeLuca.
Unbelievable game. I mean, look, this game was defined in runs. There were runs. Just St. John's was on a run, then Xavier was on a run, and that was the first half. It was back and forth runs, and it led with St. John's being up by 3 at the half. Yeah. So that's how the first half went, and then the Red Storm just took off. It was unbelievable how they were moving the ball around
multiple lead changes. Sorry, not wire to wire. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, crazy game, and it was. But then St. John's second half just took over. They moved the ball well, limited their turnovers outside of that final minute, which I'm sure Coach Anderson, I certainly wasn't happy about it. That final minute was sloppy, but luckily the game was already over by then. So a nice 13-point win for the Red Storm on the road, a quad one win. Their second of the season. They are 2-8 in quad one opportunities. Not good, but for a team like this, it's not that bad either. This is not a team that was supposed to win many big games, and they are winning and getting a couple big wins. But I got to say this. Everyone out there talking about the Red Storm going dancing all of a sudden, making a run through the Big East tournament, you're all out of your mind. They're still 14-11. Let's not go past that fact. They already have 11 losses. Some of them are terrible losses. And no, that's just it. That is it. 8 there of the 11 losses, 8 are quad one. So those are excused. Then you look at the loss to Pitt. Not good. You look right at that one.
He's just excusing 8 losses because they're quad one losses.
Yes. They weren't supposed to. They're not supposed to win those games. They're not supposed to win those games. This team wasn't supposed to be
supposed to win those games. So excuse the 8 losses. They could still
get like an NEC team to me.
They could still get to the tournament at 14-3, right?
Yeah, they could stay. Hey, yeah, that's right. I mean, hey, they would be. If they were 14-3, they would be.
I mean, look. I mean, if you want to give, if their tournament resume, and if they can build a tournament resume against the
they have to start building it now.
We're gonna see a lot of good. We're gonna see a lot of interesting teams in that NCAA tournament come March.
Yeah, look.
We're gonna be seeing 10 Big East teams if DeLuca had his way.
Right. Look,
it's 7 right now projected.
It started the other night against Xavier with that
St. John coming in.
It started with the big road win against Xavier. I have to ruin the surprise and say we're recording right now. This is Thursday night, so it comes down to the big game. It comes down to a big game at home tomorrow against Butler, 5 p.m. Friday. So the game will have already happened by the time our viewers see this. So hopefully St. John's will have come victorious away from that game. They need it. They are actually 8-point favorites as of this moment on Thursday night. So that is, for me, that's a high number, but I still like their chances to win this game at home. They usually handle Butler pretty well. It's always usually a tight competitive game. I think it's a little too high, but St. John's can come away with that win, and they need to if they want to keep building that resume towards what some people think can be this magical Big East tournament run that I still don't see.
I think you see it. I know Ian doesn't.
I
see
certainly
it,
don't
see
see
it.
it. Ian
sees
sees it. Ian sees it. Ian sees it. I don't see it.
Ian sees it starting with that 6-11 contest.
I just wanted to
Georgetown.
Oh jeez. I just 9:30 baby, 9:30.
Stop it.
I just thought tonight about giving my kudos to John Rothstein on publishing that tweet saying St. John's has a shot to get in. I think that should be just
everyone at CBS
that should just be nameplate right on the wall for Mike.
Everyone at CBS Sports needs a reality check for everything they said last night after that win. Every single one of them. Get me the Fox Sports crew back. They understand the truth here. Get me Steve Lavin back from Fox Sports. I need them.
Well, St. John Xavier, it was a really good win. Julian Champagny, 27 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. But listen, Jack Nungy, though, he continues to power through, and also they were missing Nate Johnson too. Nate Johnson was out with a knee injury, suffered a few days prior. Aaron Wheeler came into his own. He was also not supposed to be playing yesterday. He eventually did. 11 points, 8 rebounds, 4 of 5 from the floor, 25 total minutes. And then, of course, you also have another player in Tariq Coburn, Hofstra Pride's very own. Tariq Coburn, 5 of 8, 3 of 3 from downtown. And you have to realize, too, this is something else that Mike Anderson seems to not understand is that some of these players like a Steph Smith, like a Tariq Coburn, they need to shoot. And these guys are shooting well. And now they are finding their rhythm. And that's why St. John's is finally finding a little bit of wiggle room where they can maybe not get the win, but they're losing by a few points. Nothing crazy. What did they lose to UConn by? I think it was like 5 or I think it was like 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you lose against the number 24 ranked team in the country. So, what St. John's has had the capability of doing this entire season is putting together these wins. They simply cannot finish at the right time. And that has gone back many, many years. And it's also gone back to the Chris Mullen years too. As cruel as we don't really want to say that, but we remember that vividly. And it's definitely tough to bring up, but too little too late for Mike Anderson. But the only way that they can make it in is a Big East tournament run. It would be very impressive if they can get a couple of wins against Creighton, against Xavier as well. Those are going to be 3 big wins if they can do it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't expect it to happen, but we'll see. Should be tons of fun. Tomorrow night, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern time on CBS Sports Network, St. John's and Butler from Carnesecca Arena. Guys, let's keep moving forward here. We've got one more topic to go. We're going to be ending early here tonight on the Eastern Observer. Of course, we cannot thank everyone enough for joining us here alongside my guys, Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We've got a good show for you. Episode number 82, of course, presented to you by Black Cats NYC. Let's look back. We said that we would not be going with the Super Bowl, but we do want to just point out one thing here, and that is the parade. Rob DeLuca, I'm going to leave it to you because, well, you're a Giants fan. You've gotten to see parades, both you and Ian, and including myself, actually, a couple of years, or rather, I can't believe about 4 years ago already. We got a chance to see some really good parades. You got a chance to see 2, Canyon of Heroes, of course, and of course for Philadelphia, down Broad Street and all the way up to the Art Museum. And we've got a couple of photos for you, and we're going to leave it off to Rob DeLuca because I'd love to hear his reaction and what grinds his gears about Los Angeles football.
Sure thing. Let's start with we have a couple here. We'll start with what a normal parade looks like. This was the Philadelphia Eagles parade right here. Our man Joey Jarzynka right there in between the trees. If you look up the film right there, and So yeah,
that's great.
like as you can see, you see people scattered over this entire thing.
I look like a fit. Yeah, you know what that looks like? You ever watch all the SpongeBob episodes, the little nematodes, right?
Yeah,
That
who's
pop
number
up?
46,853? That's exactly what it looks like, Joey.
Oh
The
man,
pretty patty stand right in the middle there. All right, yeah. So
Ian
yeah,
Schraier
again,
has no idea what we're talking about.
Here's another vantage point of Philly. Unbelievable how many people are here. Off to the left, of course, you got the bridge leading into the city on the other side. But yeah, all of that is people. It's unbelievable. And just one more, I believe this is from where's this
that's
one
from Philadelphia.
Also Philadelphia. Like that's just crowds of people. For me, that makes me completely uncomfortable. Forget COVID. That's just me being claustrophobic. I mean, I would hate that. Now let's look at what we saw on Wednesday.
Yeah.
What am I looking at here? I've seen more people in Starbucks. I've seen more people in Dunkin' Donuts. I've seen more cars on lines at McDonald's drive-thrus. You call this a parade celebrating a Super Bowl champion? Give me a break. Let's look at another vantage point, a different street. Nothing. That's like maybe 200 people, if that, and most of them are on the bus. I can't believe that the city of Los Angeles is still allowed to have sports teams when nobody cares. Nobody cares about sports in this tourist trap of a city.
Well, now I have to. So thank you, DeLuca, for doing this, because this is it's a good grind your gears moment, because what I have to say here is that the folks in Los Angeles, they do care about their sports, but they don't care about football. And this is what we brought up just before we went live, is that they care about the Los Angeles Lakers. They care about the Los Angeles Dodgers a lot.
They do. No, you're right. That was a little unfair. I should have said football. I should have specified football.
That's okay. They care about the Los Angeles Kings. They care about the teams that have been there longer than 5 years. And not saying that the Los Angeles Rams don't have history before, but Los Angeles football, with this new age of not only tourists, but also the residents of Los Angeles and mainly California, unless you're in San Francisco or the Bay Area, you don't really care about football. That's really what it comes down to. And when I was out in Los Angeles, twice rather, I was out there on the exact day, keep this in mind, that the Los Angeles Rams were coming home, quote unquote. Stan Kroenke came out publicly and said, we're moving the team from St. Louis to LA. I was on a plane out to LA. The following year, Dean Spanos then comes out to the podium and says, we're moving the team from San Diego to LA. Crazy stuff. But be that as it may, there is not a lot of attraction to the LA Rams. We got a chance to see it in the LA Coliseum. We got a chance to see it even at SoFi Stadium. We brought this up numerous times with Rob DeLuca about how there's no home field advantage. And we saw it multiple times when the Rams were when they were technically the visitors in the LA Coliseum, when they were when they were doing stuff out there or playing there, in their stopgap before SoFi Stadium. It's really sad to see what's gone on there. And definitely if we or when we have our LA Rams writer, we'll bring up his name, Cameron DeSilva from the Rams Wire. He will be with us in due time, of course, in the next few weeks, leading up to free agency and talking a little bit about this Super Bowl run, of course. I'd love to hear his thoughts, of course, because this is the city's first Super Bowl, and I don't know how many years the Rams won one when they were in LA the first time. But again, this is a team that is, and again, it was really hot too. You would think that a lot of people were out there, regardless of the mandates, regardless of whatnot. You got a chance to see it. I would have expected definitely more, and that's why I completely agree with DeLuca there. Ian, what did you think about when you saw those photos?
What's kind of interesting with the history of the Los Angeles Rams, and also if you want to tie in the once Los Angeles Raiders, is that generation of fan, when those two teams were playing out in LA. I mean, we're going back now 40 years.
Yep.
A little more. I mean, I guess in the 80s, so 40 years ago. I mean, when you look at there's two Super Bowls under John Madden that the Raiders won in LA. I mean, that was the late 70s, early, I mean, in the 70s and into the 80s, that, I can't think of the motto right now, but it just about being great. And that generation, I mean, when you bring it present day, a lot of that generation watched that team go from LA to St. Louis and then come back to LA. And now most of that generation is probably now in their 60s, maybe even their 70s. And like Joey said, I think there's just not a tie to. I don't think they see it as original either. I mean, because now you got the Chargers there too, and all the Charger fans are still 3 hours south in San Diego.
Yep.
So I think there's the problem is there's no original idea in LA for a franchise, and I think that's the problem that LA fans have with it. I mean, the fact that and I know we don't have the picture pulled up, but the picture of the traffic leaving SoFi Stadium, the lines of lights that literally looked like something out of like a firework display, on the freeway in Los Angeles. That was something, there were many more people on those roads than there were, surrounding the streets of LA for the Rams parade. And I think, I'm not going to sit here and harp on the city of LA. But I think a lot of that has to do with just the constant move of that team, of that franchise. I don't think as much, even though I think people care more for the Rams in that city than they do the Chargers, because they at least feel like the Rams are theirs because the Rams played there once. I still don't think, like Joey said, I think that's a Dodgers city, that's a Kings city, that's a Lakers city, even a Clippers city. There's just no, the fact that they brought the team back, I don't know if that was the best decision. I mean, maybe financially, yes, but in terms of for the fan base, I'm not sure there's really as much of a tie there as I think maybe certain people were hoping for or looking for.
Well, not only that too, I think a lot of the current Rams fans, they're about 4 hours east by plane in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly. And that's a big deal. I don't know. It's going to be wild stuff, but that is going to conclude our show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to our kudos, of course, we do have to say a couple of just previews here. We do want to say, of course, that tomorrow morning, because you are watching this on Friday night, tomorrow morning we will be coming out with Instant Reaction segment number 7. That's going to be the Seton Hall and DePaul preview that will feature wearedepaul.com's Dan Stack, in addition to, of course, Daily Dose of Hoops, Jaden Daly, in addition to, of course, College Hoops Digest, Josh Adams. We will have a full roundtable with you tomorrow morning right here on the Eastern Observer. Should be a ton of fun with all of those fellas to talk about Seton Hall following their loss to UConn by just 5 points on Wednesday night. Guys, let's get to our kudos. Of course, we got a chance to really just end off early. Guys, start off with you, DeLuca. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, not a lot, not much going on in the sports world these weeks. I mean, I guess I'll throw my kudos out to the this one hurts. The Canada women's hockey team, they get my kudos. Hurts, sucks to say it.
Yeah,
but they were the much better team in Wednesday night's game against the United States for gold, as it is essentially every year or every Olympics. Nothing's changed, but unfortunately, 3-2, the final score. Team Canada taking home yet another gold, and it's painful, it's heartbreaking, but I hope it's a wake-up call for USA Hockey to change the empire, because that roster was way too aged. That some of those players were in their fourth Olympics already, so it's a very aged roster. So hopefully we'll start seeing the younger players in the future for world tournaments, and then the next Olympics will be a complete changeover.
Ian Schraier, your kudos goes to?
My kudos goes to a front runner right now for the player of the year in the CAA. That's got to be Hofstra's Aaron Estrada. He's really playing. Except you want to talk about a team that in this area that could be dancing. That would be the Hofstra Pride. But yeah, Aaron Estrada is just playing like a man possessed. The Pride have won 5 in a row. I believe he went off for over 30 the other night against Elon. They've got a few games left. They're going to have tough go of it against come the Colonial Tournament, because the two teams ahead of them, they've lost to twice, that being Towson and UNC Wilmington. But hopefully after they got robbed of their tournament appearance in 2020 because of COVID, hopefully we get to see the Pride there again in 2022. Aaron Estrada, a big part of that.
Yeah, well, it's very funny. There was somebody that was a part of my time working at St. Francis Brooklyn that actually has ties to UNC Wilmington. And this man named Nicolas Molina, he was a forward. He is a forward, a striker, rather, for UNC Wilmington. And what was going on with him was that he transferred as a grad student from St. Francis Brooklyn, and he went down to Wilmington to play for the CAA team. And all of a sudden, I think it's really amazing that he never left North Carolina, because the year prior to him transferring down to that CAA program, one of the top teams in the CAA, he stayed down there, and he showed up. I think it was like 11 or 12 goals in the CAA, which led the conference. And then also he decided to stay down there and play for the North Carolina Fury in League One of the United Soccer League, which is really amazing. He just signed a contract. So my kudos goes to former St. Francis Brooklyn Terrier and also former UNC Wilmington player in Nicolas Molina. Why? Because our running joke years ago, or rather last year, was he's going North Carolina and Wilmington dreaming. Well, he never left North Carolina. He's staying down there, and that's really amazing stuff for him. He really, really loves North Carolina, no doubt. So Nicolas, really, Nico, what we used to call him, kudos to you, and go get it. Ladies and gentlemen, our show has concluded. Of course, be sure to subscribe to us by searching the Primetime Rundown on the following platforms: Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey. And of course, if you'd like to see all of our beautiful faces, please search and subscribe on our YouTube channel by searching The Eastern Observer. And of course, please be sure to subscribe to our partners over at the Essential Wrestling Podcast, our partner show, by doing the exact same thing. Subscribing and searching Essential Wrestling Podcast on the following platforms: Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Odyssey. And of course, if you would like to see John DeConnie, John Smith, Al Carl, Ryan Joy, and Gary Miheffi, please be sure to like and subscribe and search The Eastern Observer on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, one final time here for Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca, and myself, Joey Jarzynka, for all of us here at the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Group. We will see you tomorrow on the Instant Reaction, segment number 7. Those two guys over there, they'll see you guys next week